Okay. So now we're going to talk about proportions. And in order to talk about proportions, we need to talk about ratios. So if you get caught up with ratios, just remember a ratio is a relationship between two or more values. So again, you could bring it to real life of I have $3 for every 4 quarters and so on and so forth. So for every $3, you're going to continuously have 4 quarters because that's the relationship between the two values that you have. I say dollars and quarters just because they're right next to me on my table right now. And now we're going to talk about a proportion, which a proportion is a mathematical statement that shows two ratios are equal to one another. So what we're saying is we're going to have two ratios. So let's say we have 2 to 5 is equal to 4 to 10. So this is now a mathematical statement because we're involving an equal sign. We're expressing that these two ratios are equal to one another. And if you kind of notice, it goes back to just equivalent fractions because remember, 2 to 5 equals to 4 to 10. Well, if we write that as a fraction, that means 2/5 is equal to 4/10. And these are equivalent fractions. So that's something that you can kind of help stay on track. Okay, let's go ahead and do some examples just to get us used to how we can express proportions and all that good stuff. So write 3 to 4 is equal to 9 to 12 as a proportion using fractions. Well, remember, these ratios we can express as fractions. That was one of the things that we talked about last video. So 3 to 4, well, that's equal to 3/4. And 9 to 12 is equal to 9/12. So now that we have their fraction format, we can go ahead and represent 3/4 is equal to 9/12. And if you notice, that is true for sure, especially because they are equivalent fractions. 9/12 is just 3 times 3/4. So remember, I have to multiply the same number top and bottom. So this is true. And we'll talk about true. The reason why I kind of emphasize now that it's true, because that's something that we'll be checking later on. Okay. So our next example, write 5/7 is equal to 15/21 using ratios. So what is 5/7? Well, that is 5 to 7. Remember, order matters. And then if we have 15/21, oh, I'm already writing the answer. Remember, the numerator comes first. So we get 15 to 21. So now we can just go ahead and set them equal to one another since a proportion is a statement. So we have 5 to 7 is equal to 15 to 21. And this is all we're going to do for the first video. Next video, we're going to go a little bit more in depth of proportion and do some more examples with proportions. Okay, stay tuned.